Hello, and welcome to Superheroes and Heels with Kimberly Borgens, where we fiercely empower women to step into their role, encourage them to take up their space, and step into command presence like never before. I'm Kimberly Borgens, your host. I've worked in a male dominant industry for over 33 years, building businesses throughout those years. And I have a little bit of, advice, tips, hints every now and again for other people. And so today's episode, I wanted to kind of lighten it up. I know the last two episodes have been a little more strong, focused on being a CEO. And I want to lighten that up a little bit today, have a little more fun, but really talk about some of the past clients that we've had, that I've had the pleasure of working with throughout the years. So I wanted to tell you a couple stories today, or a couple coaching clients today, and talk about them. And the reason is I think some of the things that are happening today can relate to both of these two stories that I'm thinking about today. So the first one, let me talk to you about. So there's Linda. Linda has a brick and mortar glass shop, right? So her and her husband started it. They built it up. And I would see Linda at many networking events. She would be out drumming up business, trying to, get people to see the value of getting new windows and doors and things in their homes, replace the glass that gets broken, so on. And she would attend many of my little trainings. I had uh, workshops that I would do. I often do brown bag series where you bring a lunch and I'll do a quick training for businesses here locally. So Linda, she came to me one time and she said, "Hey, Kimberly, I could really use your support. Can we talk about to see if you could help me in my business?" And I said, "Sure, let's talk. Let's have a conversation." So she said, "Look, I really want to hire you, but I don't have a whole lot of money. And but can I tell you what's going on?" Absolutely. And when somebody says, "I don't have a whole lot of money, but I really want to hire you," for me, that's just a stop and listen, just to connect with them and see, what I can do to support them. The bonus is that I'm my own, you know, owner. I can adjust my fees as needed if necessary. I don't do that very often, but on occasion now and then I can say, what can we do here? Because my goal is really to serve the person more than it is to worry about, is it the exact price I wanted? And that's the bonus that I can do as a business owner in my businesses, is I can make that shift. But she said to me, "I really can't afford you. I know your prices, but I really would like to see if you could help me." And I'm like, "Okay, so let's have this conversation." So she proceeded to tell me about how she'd gotten behind in business. They had gotten behind on their financials, they got behind on paying taxes, they got behind on a lot of things. And, there's times when businesses get lean, and or they have to get lean. The economy is lean. It's hard to make extra profit, and you just kind of have to hang on for a while to make that shift. If you can hang on and you've prepared yourself for the economy shifts, for the medical shifts like we had in COVID, and things like that. If you can prepare yourself enough to stay in the game longer, so that you can get past those lean times, you usually can get out pretty okay. Well, this particular client, she was in the lean times, and she was just getting further and further and further behind. And so I asked her, I'm like, "So how come your books aren't kept up?" Like, she was years behind in her books. And she said, "I just don't have time. There's not enough of me. And this one person quit, and I haven't been able to rehire somebody because we can't afford to rehire them. I have one person coming in who works part time for me. But when she comes in, like, there's just so much to do." And I'm like, "Okay." And I'm like, "And then your taxes?" And she said, "Yeah, well, if the books aren't done, I can't pay my taxes. And so I haven't paid my taxes. And now the IRS is coming after me." And I was like, "Whoa, there's a lot happening here." So I said, well, look, here's what I can do is here's where I can advise you. So when instead of taking her on as a normal weekly one-to-one client, what I did is I became more of an advisor to her, and we created an income for her so that I could advise her on a weekly basis on what she and her part-time person could do to get the books caught up. So every week, I go, okay, how much did you get done? And then, pretty soon we had 1 year done, right? So I'm like, look, you just got to put your head down, only log this, only log this, and stay completely focused on this. I need you to talk to that employee and say, are they willing to help you do that? Are they willing to put in a couple extra hours here and there, right, to get these things done? So they got plugging away. They got the first year done. They got the second year done, right? And by the third year, they were really almost caught up with that. And I said, okay, so we did the things, we got them into action, right? So I worked with her. We talked about numbers, where to put things in with their business, how she can do that. She didn't have a CPA anymore. And I was like, you got to get yourself a CPA so they can go over the books to make sure all that, even if it's only temporary. I gave her a referral for a CPA. She was able to utilize them. Then I gave her a referral for somebody else. And the referral for somebody else was that person who does the fighting with the IRS, offer and compromise, person, somebody who who we have been able to utilize with other clients. But when you're in an offer and compromise with the IRS, they want all your money. Okay. But you have somebody who can fight for you and say, look, I get it. I got behind, and, you know, I don't know how to get out of it because we're just swimming around in all the problems. And we feel that sometimes, especially women, we feel that guilt, like, I thought I could do it all by myself, or the shame of, I can't even catch up. I don't even know how to do this anymore, right? Like, because you just get so overwhelmed with all of the pieces that you just kind of like freeze. And that was the case with Linda. She just got into the freeze mode. I just don't even know where to start because it all just feels completely overwhelming. So I was able to just stop and go, okay, let's just do this one thing. Can you do this one thing? Can you get this month caught up? Okay, how about this month? Right. And so again, we went back for like 3 years. She was able to work with the offer and compromise attorney who worked with the IRS, and the whole thing concluded where she got all her books caught up. She got the offer and compromise and set an amount to pay the IRS back what was owed. Luckily, most of it was not payroll taxes because the IRS is really strong on those, right? So it was just the business taxes and paying the sales tax for the items and products that she's selling or in their business. But she was able to get caught up. And then they sold their business and were able to relax in the home. They ended up moving to another little city. And then her husband, who was her business partner, passed away. And she, luckily at the right time, reached out for help. And what I mean by that is sometimes the right time is almost too late. Luckily for her, it wasn't too late. She didn't get her business shut down. She didn't get so far in debt with the IRS that she had to sell everything, all her assets, to pay it back. She reached out to help, even though it was past the time, but she reached out in the right time to be able to make that happen. And then she was able to sell her business. Look, if you are behind on things, if you are, so frustrated and overwhelmed, and it doesn't have to be your finances, it doesn't have to be your books, you want to ask for help. We strong women just seem to think that we don't need anybody's help for anything. But I'm telling you today, we need help. We men have no problem asking for help. Quite often they just delegate it out or they just dump it on somebody else. But we women, we got to keep it in and we got to hold it like it's this big secret because we have shame and guilt around the fact that we don't know everything. And I'm telling you, ladies, we are not designed to know everything. I do not know everything. I don't. I don't expect to know everything. I'm going to keep learning so that I know more and more. But guess what? The world keeps evolving, right? And that more and more keeps changing. So I just putting out a plea to you as women in business is don't wait till it's so overwhelming that you freeze. Don't wait till it's so overwhelming that you almost have to shut down your business. Seek advice. If you're having problems with employees, get somebody who can help you. If you're having problems with vendors, look, I I have worked with clients so many times around vendors that aren't producing what they say they're going to do, that they had a death in the family and they're not getting caught up and it's been more than a year and they're still using, uh, I'm still grieving and therefore I can't do the work, but I'm going to hold on to your money. Like, no, that's not how business works, right? Have an advocate on your side. That's what a great coach or a great mentor can be, as an advocate for you. Like, I have had clients fire their vendors. I kid you not. Not because they weren't good vendors, good people, but because they weren't producing the work that you hired them to do. And yeah, it's hard. And sometimes it's family members. Oh, I know working with family is tough. But sometimes you have to go, whoop, I'm taking that back, right? Do you want that to work for you? Great. Put them in another position. Do something different, right? In this case, lucky for Linda, she was able to reach out in time to be able to save her business enough to be able to sell her business so that she and her husband can retire and have the last year together before he passed away. So I did want to tell you about that one. But I wanted to share with you one more client today. And this particular client, this was years ago, but it still applies to a lot of what is happening today with women today. This particular client was married. She had her own entrepreneurial business and he had his own entrepreneurial business. The problem is he was racking up so much credit card debt that it was affecting the family life, right? It was affecting too much credit card debt that never seemed like it was going to get paid off. So she reached out to me, Amanda reached out to me, and she said, I really need some help. And she was part of a program with a small group. And, they set big goals. All right, big goals. And there's huge accountability around this group program. And so I got to be their coach and this for this group, and it was just so much fun. But at the same time, she came with an audacious goal: pay off $60,000 of debt in 10 weeks. That was the audacious goal. Now you're thinking, oh my gosh, that's not possible. But let me tell you, when you're committed to something, you're going to get it done, right? So we had calls every week. Sometimes we had two in a week. And she would call me up and say, look, so she was a photographer at the time and doing a lot of photography. She also had a network marketing business. And, she was doing everything she could to try to make sure that her family was taken care of. She was a mom. She had young kids at home, right? And her husband was just racking up credit card debt in his business and not getting the clients that he needed and getting that payment. And so the financial responsibility kind of fell on her shoulders. Anybody else out there feeling that every now and again? I'm not saying it stays that way, but sometimes that's what happens. And so she said, okay, I got to get this paid off. So we went through all the stuff. What are some of the things that she could sell around her house? She did. Okay, so how can you get more clients in your network marketing business so that you get bigger checks? So she did some of that. Okay, photography. And she's like, I'm really not trying to do the photography. I'm trying to get out of doing most of that. And I'm like, yeah, but you said 10 weeks. Sometimes you have to do the things that you don't want to do in order to get to the goal that you said that you really wanted. So think about the things that I'm not talking about doing something illegal or immoral. No way. But I'm talking about there's things that you can do that you just don't want to do, right? There's things that I do that I don't want to do, but I do it, right? I have to tell my employees no sometimes. I have to tell my business partner, no, you can't spend that money right now, right? I don't care if you're a multi-million dollar business, you still have budgets that you have to maintain. You still have to pay off the debt, right? You can't run your business on a debt flow, right? Think about that. You have to be able to run your business, with some profit, right? Even if you have some loss, you can't be so far in debt. I'm not a big proponent of credit card debt. Do I use credit cards? Absolutely. But credit card debt is not, I don't like it. I don't want it. So sometimes I'll tell my team, nope, if we don't have the cash to do it, we wait. And so I'm telling you, you want to be successful in business, you might want to start listening to what we're saying here as the CEOs. It's like, stop making it. Now I know there's a lot of big companies, and what they do is they make money off of other people's money. Okay, that's great. Well, if I had huge assets to be able to do that, maybe I would look into doing that, but I don't. I'm a small business, right? I'm running based on the cash flow. I am not running on some hope, wish, and want of somebody else investors' money. I think investor money is great for the right people at the right time. I just don't use it at this point. So sometimes I tell them no. So think about for you is, can you say, what are the things that you're saying no to that you should be saying yes to get yourself caught up? Not long term, not forever, but for right now. And so she was telling me, yeah, I got this call from the YMCA and they want me to come and do pictures. I don't really want to do it. And I'm like, okay, so when are you calling them back? She's like, well, like I said, I don't really want to do it. I'm like, yeah, but you committed to $60,000 in 10 weeks. And she's like, yeah, you're right. Okay. So she called them back. She did the gig, right? She did the gig. And she got paid, and she put that payment towards the credit card debt, right? Then she's like, yeah, I don't really want to do these pictures. People are calling me about this. I'm like, great, you better, put it out on social media. You can do this, you can do this, and let people call you. And whether you want to do it or not is irrelevant. Are you willing to get the goal? Are you willing to get the goal? Think about it, right? If you set a big goal and you want to be so audacious as to say $60,000 of debt in 10 weeks, for some people, like they just can't even imagine that is a possibility. She at least imagined it as a possibility and was willing to move forward with that. But I had to get her out of her comfort zone for her to do the things that were necessary so that she could achieve that goal. And guess what? In 9.5 weeks, she had reached that goal. At the end of the 10 weeks, she could come together with a group and say, I did it. End of story, right? No. She called me up about 6 months later and she said, I have to tell you something, Kimberly. And I said, what's that? She said, he's racked up another $25,000 of debt. And I'm like, wow, I'm sorry to hear that. And she said, yeah. And then he decided that we need to get divorced. He didn't want to be in the relationship anymore because, here she is like, I've worked my butt off to pay your debt and you're just adding more debt. It just created such a strife within their marriage. And she said, and I can't keep doing this same thing over and over again. And so they did. She said, but I have to tell you the bigger lesson that I learned when I was working with you. I'm like, okay, tell me. And she said, what I discovered about myself is I have two sons, and I now know that I could take care of them without him. I didn't know that before. I was always worried and concerned that I wouldn't be able to make it if he were to leave. And he's left. And I'm okay Because when I was working with you, you taught me how to be strong. You taught me how to take care of myself. You taught me to do the things that I didn't want to do, but I needed to do, take care of my family. Sometimes you have to pay attention to the things that you don't realize when you're working with clients. She was prepared, and she's been a phenomenal single mom, taking care of her sons who have graduated from high school, and I just have such love and respect for this woman because she was willing to take on the things she didn't want to do. She was willing to be held accountable. She was willing to get pushed, and she ended up learning much greater things than I even thought that I was working with her for. But she took it on, and she took on her life in a big way. And I can only have love and respect for that. So think about you. Are there things that you're holding on to? Do you need somebody to step in and support you and hold you accountable for the things that you don't want to do? You're always welcome to reach out to me. You probably know somebody who can help you, but I'd love to support you if that's the case for you. All you have to do is go to bealegacy.com or come over to the Hive Hangout. You can click it from bealegacy.com, and that's bealegacy.com, bealegacy.com. And then get a coaching session with me. Have a strategy session and see if we're a good fit for each other. And if not, I'll refer you to somebody else. But I really did want to take the time to share with you about a couple of the clients that I've been able to coach and the many things that get learned in the process of fixing the problem that end up fixing way more in your life. So if that's something that you're interested in, leave a comment, subscribe to my podcast here. Come over, find me on social. I'm there. But most importantly, come over to the Hive Hangout. Get in there, join me, and let's see what we can do to help grow you in your business. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope it was helpful to hear about some of the past clients that I've worked with. Have a blessed day.